All right, guys, so let's talk about product research, all right? So there's a lot in this module to go through. I just want to give you a roadmap of how to actually go through this section, break things down, and start actually looking at the whole thing as, together, how to put together your product research. All right, so when you're doing this, there are numerous product research techniques in this course, all right? So there's a whole bunch of ways broken down. And really, at the end of the day, you can find other ways as well. But once you find those products, we're really going to end up taking, whether it's an individual product you find through the web app or through, the storefront method or through, bundled with or simply bought with, we're going to take those and we're going to run the Chrome extension on those keywords that you found for that product. All right. And once we're there, that's where your real research begins, because the way that you get to the Chrome extension data and the marketplace data doesn't really matter. But once you're there, all right, think about the product research methods as a tool in your tool belt. All right, it's something that helps you get to where you want to go, but it's only as good as, getting to that spot. All right, but once you know how to use those tools, you're going to get way better at this. All right, so once you're there, though, it allows you to actually start looking at the data that you just found. All right, so tier number one, we're looking at your Chrome extension, and we're looking at revenue versus reviews. All right, the revenue, all right, I like to be between $7,000 and about $30,000 a month. Because that's your sweet spot. Much above that, you have a ton of competition. People want those products that are doing $100,000 a month, and there's other sellers that, do multi-millions, and they have deep pockets in the capital and, are willing to dump in a ton of money at PPC to take those over, as well as that attracts hijackers and other things of that nature. So I stay away from those. I like the products that are going to bring me a solid return, but also give me the opportunity to compete and dominate in that marketplace. All right. Reviews are something that give you an idea of the competition. All right. So if you go into a marketplace and someone has 1,600 reviews, stay away from that. All right. If you see a marketplace where some people have 250, 300 reviews, something like that, you can still keep going through this process. All right. Because here's the hard part about Amazon is it's not a definitive thing. I can't give you a checklist of it needs to be X, Y, Z of these are your criteria, because it doesn't work that way. So understand that revenue versus reviews is just kind of your first telltale of how competitive is this marketplace, how much demand is there for it, and is it something I can even begin to compete with, all right? So that's usually the first thing we're going to look at. Now, we're going to look at the price of the actual product itself. I like to be at least $20, and I've said this numerous times, but if it's much below that, and someone comes in that marketplace and doesn't differentiate whatever else too, or that whole marketplace kind of erodes price-wise over time, then your margins get crushed. And if you're at least $20 and you're following the methods that I'm teaching you, and your profit margin is at least 25%, then you're going to be okay, right? So that's just where I like to be. Much over $70 though, usually that's not so much of an impulse buy, and usually you're getting more into bigger products as well, okay? So then you're going to oversize, for storage fees, for freight, for other things, so let's just stay away from that. Monthly sales. All right, so this is another huge thing. My goal is to always be selling 10 units of whatever product I'm launching every single day, which equates out to 300 a month. And for these, criteria, when you're talking about the price of the product, you're talking about the monthly sales, you're looking at kind of your top 20 usually. All right, the top 10's fine. I like the top 20 because it gives you a more realistic average across the board. And your actual top bar in your Chrome extension, whether it's Helium 10, Viral Launch, Jungle Scout, doesn't really matter. That's one way to do it. I actually like to export those as a CSV file and do it manually. So I have an actual, accurate read of the exact data that I want. So I highly recommend doing that. Now, we're also going to look at, in that marketplace, in those listings, right, are there big brands? Or is Amazon selling big brands or other products, all right? So if Amazon is a dominant player and you're going to start seeing the sellers column and there's, it's FBA, and then it's Amazon, then that's an indicator that I probably want to stay away from that. Because if Amazon's the, big dog player in that and they have numerous listings that Amazon's selling on, it's a lot harder to compete against Amazon on their own platform. Now, that being said, if Amazon has an Amazon Basics listing and that's it, and the rest of it's FBM, FBA sellers, then that can be okay. Because remember, Amazon Basics is literally just using the authority of Amazon itself to then, push that product. But most of those listings aren't well optimized. The images aren't great. They're kind of subpar. We can play ball and compete with that if everything else checks out. All right. So the next thing is, are there repeating brands, right? Not necessarily big brands, but maybe an Amazon brand or a private label brand that you see familiar kind of in your top 10, top 20 listings that repeats 4 or 5, maybe 6 times. that could be an indicator that that brand is going to be an issue and they really kind of dominate that marketplace, right? Maybe all of their listings only have, a few hundred reviews and their revenue is decent, but it's not huge, and they're not one listing stands out, but they have numerous of them. That's still an indicator that they kind of own that marketplace, and it's something that you want to stay away from. Next is the number of sellers on a listing, all right? You're going to see this, especially with Amazon listings, and some of these big brands, because people, remember, there's other models of Amazon besides private label. There's wholesale where people are buying stuff in bulk and reselling it. And there's authorized sellers for brands like Yeti, like Nike, like Adidas, like Swiffer, KitchenAid, all these other brands that they're going through and they're relisting those, all right? So if there's more than 3 sellers on a listing, realize that that listing itself carries way more weight than you realize, because there's 3 different people that are all selling that product. So those are kind of your first criteria, all right? Now, if it doesn't meet one of those and it really stands out, let's say there's 600 reviews, I would move on. I wouldn't even go to tier 2. If there's, Amazon dominates it, if Nike, basically is like the primary seller in it, move on from it, all right? If there's 8 sellers on a listing, move on from that category in that actual marketplace you're looking in. Now, if all of these things check out, then you're going to go to tier 2, all right? And in tier 2, we're going to look at, the first thing we look at is really the exact match monthly search volume, all right? So remember though, that this exact match monthly search volume that will be pulled up, you can use Helium 10 for this, you can use Jungle Scout for this. I still prefer Jungle Scout the most out of all these tools, all right? Especially if you're selling in the US or Canada, even, some Australia. When you're really focused in the European marketplaces, Helium 10 does seem to kind of be a better tool in that way for a lot of these, but Jungle Scout is something you need regardless because of the PPC data. Now, your exact match monthly search volume, all right? You want 25,000 monthly searches across your top 4 keywords, all right? So you want to make sure that those compound, the monthly search volume for all 4 of those is at least 25,000. Now, you want to be careful with this, because if one of those keywords has, let's say 500 exact match monthly search volume, that's an indicator that that keyword's going to be very hard to rank for, and the PPC is probably going to be expensive. So you want it to be kind of equated out evenly between those, all right? So I'd like to at least see 3,000 to 5,000 for each one of those, if not more. Or if you're really doing this, the other method, you want one word, like one core keyword for your marketplace, whatever that dominant keyword is that you're going to type in first, has at least 15,000 exact match monthly search volume. Now, remember one thing with the monthly search volume is that it is based off the previous month, okay? So it is not, an annual thing. It's literally right now, it's October, so that it's your previous, month is based off September, right? So the next thing we need to look at is Google Trends versus your monthly search volume. Because here's the deal, is when you see your trend, you're going to actually end up being able to cross-reference and see, is that product seasonal? Does it, peak at a certain point in the year, or does it drop off? Is there a valley at some point, that's consistent over the past 5 years? Then that monthly search volume might not be accurate and it's not going to carry throughout the year. Also, we're not looking for seasonal products anyway. So if you do have these peaks and valleys, then that's probably not a product you want to actually continue with, okay? So it's just something to pay attention to. And a great example of that is like wedding stuff, right? So wedding stuff peaks in the summer, tapers off in the fall. The inverse of that would be like a winter hat. It's going to peak in the winter and it's going to drop off in the summer, all right? So let's just say that right now it's October. Maybe there's, Halloween stuff obviously be a seasonal thing, right? So right now I'm sure it's going all the way up, right? And if you look at the monthly search volume, I'm sure last month people started looking for it. If you look at it in November, you're still going to see that people are looking for it. You look at it, come June, nobody's looking for that, all right? So just something to start, training yourself to be able to actually correlate those two, even though there's not necessarily a direct correlation, all right? This is an important skill, very important point. Next, you're going to look at the exact match PPC bid data, all right? So for those keywords, whether you're using the one that is the 15,000 monthly search volume, then you're going to look at just the PPC data for that. And what is the exact match PPC bid data? And you need Keyword Scout to do this, okay? So you need Jungle Scout to do this aspect, and it's huge. This is a huge component. And people that, I've worked with, everyone who's been in this course for a while now know that I compare revenue to reviews, that kind of those compare and contrast for demand and competition, to your search volume, your exact match monthly search volume, to your PPC bid data. That again is demand versus competition, all right? So, and on higher level, because remember, Amazon is a search engine. So this is a critical point, right? So under $1 for that exact match PPC bid, great. Under 150, good. All right, between 150 and $2, okay. You know what? Between $2 and $2.50, no thank you. Like, I will pass on that, and over $2.50, no way. So basically what I'm trying to say here is, as it approaches $2, it is becoming competitive, more and more competitive, right? That's not something that I want to play ball with, because it's going to be super expensive when we go to launch via PPC, when we go to actually, rank and index and hold our positioning on page one. This all factors into that, all right? So it's a great way to measure the demand, because Amazon is a search engine, all right? The keywords matter more than most people think, and this is something that's hugely overlooked. Next, we're going to look at, are there patents? Are there trademarks? What else is surrounding, is either the brand or the design of the product itself? Can we actually legally sell this, all right? So again, I'm not a lawyer. I can't, definitively say one way or the other. If you have the capital and you're able to do this and everything looks good, then it might be worth talking to an attorney and paying them, $150 an hour to go and check and make sure your product is solid before you spend thousands of dollars, right? So just something to consider. The next thing we're going to look at is across your top 20 listings, all right? How old are the listings? In the last 90 days, so the last 3 months, how many new sellers have come into this marketplace? Because if we see that there's a huge influx of sellers, then we know it's getting more competitive. So that's something we want to also note, right? And then the other thing is the price point, right? So in the last 90 days, where has that price been, right? As a marketplace as a whole, is it going up? Is it going down? Is it holding steady, right? So this gives you an idea of the entire marketplace stability, and are things kind of holding the course, right? So if there's no new sellers entering and the price point is held steady over the last 3 months, if not further back, then that marketplace is solid, right? It's steady, it's not going anywhere, things aren't really changing, and you have a great opportunity to come in and differentiate and take over that marketplace. Now, once we've done all of this, we're going to go down and basically we're going to analyze the top keywords in the marketplace. This is tier 3. And this is where this gets a little bit tedious, a little bit mundane, but there's a reason for this. So we're going to go back and reverse ACE in our top competitors and find what the top kind of keywords in your marketplace really are. All right. So with this, I would take your top 5, top 10, and reverse ACE in them and really see what words they're ranking for. Because sometimes it's going to surprise you, the words that they rank for and show up for that you wouldn't have accounted for in this marketplace, right? And you want to make sure that you have numerous fronts to come in and rank and dominate whatever marketplace you're going into, right? So with this, you're now going to go back and rinse and repeat, tier number 2. So you're going to go back and look at the monthly search volume. You're going to go look back at the PPC bid data, all right? You're going to go back and look at, for those other keywords, it's going to show you different results on your Chrome extension, right? You're kind of going to go back through everything all over again. And hear me out for a second. Yes, a lot of work, but you're mitigating risk. So you're entering your marketplace and you know this space very, very well. You know what your top competitors are ranking for. You know the keywords you need to target. You know your approximate costs of how much, how they're targeted. You know if those other keywords are seasonal. You know you've basically built out your master keyword list that allows you to build out your listing, that allows you to plan for your PPC launch, that allows you just front loaded so much of your work that you're so much further ahead when you are ready to pull the trigger on this, all right? And then your final component comes a little bit later, and that's after you contact 3 to 5 different suppliers and negotiate pricing. That's after you've talked to your freight forwarders and figured out shipping. You figure out your inspection company. You already know all of your numbers, and you need to make sure before PPC, any kind of PPC, that you have at least a 25% profit margin, right? I like to be in the 30s. That's really your ideal target. But if you're under 25%, then you're going to cut this entire product. You're not going to this marketplace because there's just not enough room. And again, if anything was to erode, if things are to change, you've got to be able to adjust a little bit in this, because marketplaces do fluctuate. Amazon does fluctuate, all right? It's a fluid marketplace. So if it's not 25%, then we don't want to be in that marketplace. That's not something that we want to play. That's not the product you want to launch, and that's not where you want to be, all right? So these are your initial 3 tiers, all right? So this is how I want to lay this out, right? So following this, I want you to implement this, and there's videos covering each one of these things, all right? So use this as a roadmap and as a guide, all right? So there's gonna be a PDF of this attached below. Download that, reference this often and go through this and start thinking about product research as a 3-tiered process. And if one tier doesn't make sense, then you're not going to the next one. Okay. So, that's going to eliminate a lot of work for you. You're not going to go way down the process of this and then realize, oh, this doesn't work. And, because of something that you could have caught earlier. So this is how we're going to do this. All right. Liberators, this is my method and it works well. All right. Yes, a lot of work, but as you know, getting into this business upfront, it's capital and time intensive, and it pays you back day in, day out following that for months, years to come.